Managing the full real estate lifecycle can be complex. From identifying and selecting new site locations, to overseeing new construction, to managing these scenarios, to making transaction management decisions. BuildingsAI IWMS provides cloud-based real estate lifecycle management. You can select the solution or solutions that best meet your needs, including LX contracts for lease administration and accounting, LX markets and sites for market planning and site selection, LX projects for construction project management, and LX transaction management for real estate transaction management. Interested in learning more? Fill out the form to access the BuildingsAI demo videos. You'll discover how BuildingsAI works, how your teams can benefit from powerful real estate management software, and what makes BuildingsAI stand out from the crowd.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Realcomm Live. I'm Jim Young, your host. This week, we are going to be continuing our journey into the world of AI and the built environment. For those of you who may not be aware, we started our entry into this journey in 2016 at Realcomm and IBCon, where we had a gentleman by the name of Cade Metz on the stage. Cade was a reporter for Wired magazine, and he was actually in the room where the Korean Go champion was fighting, I believe it was Microsoft's AI or Google's AI machine learning system. And I remember one of the things Cade said to me was, it was really strange because I was watching the guys who developed the platform, and at one point they started asking each other, do you know what it's doing? And they all responded, no, we don't. And Cade, who is a technology reporter, said he'd never quite heard anything like that, where the technology was doing things that its coders didn't know about. And at that conference, we asked some folks on the stage, had they had any familiarity with AI? And pretty much the answers were no. So 7 years ago, our industry knew nothing about AI. So fast forward to last year, last fall, ChatGPT enters the industry, or the world, I should say, and boom, everybody's now aware of ChatGPT and others. And then we go to our conference this year, AI, a big topic. We had some demos, we had multiple sessions. And then right after the conference, we reached out to 75 to 100 people saying, look, we know we didn't cover it enough. There was so much happening so fast. Do you want to get together and have a conversation about AI? And very quickly, I think we had 75 people on the phone, and we've been holding conversations for the last month or so, couple months, on the topic of AI in the built environment. And two guys that rose to the top of that conversation, they were also kind of took a leadership role on the topic at the conference, was Wayne Campbell, technologist and freelance management consultant, and Sunder Pappu, SVP, head of technology and strategy for Inland Real Estate Group. And let's bring those guys on, because they're going to join me today as co-chairs of our BuildingsAI event that's happening this November. And let's get a little sense on, why are you leaning in? So Sunder, why don't we start with you? I mean, give me a little background on your experience and your bio, and then let's get quickly into why are you specifically leaning into AI? And I'm going to ask the same to Wayne, and then we're going to get into our conversation.
Thanks, Jim. From a technology background perspective, I have close to about 30 plus years of technology experience, working for Fortune 500 companies, mostly in banking and insurance side of the house. And then over the last 13 years, working here at the Inland Real Estate group of companies. The good thing, from a overall perspective, what I've seen is that as you actually apply the value of, how can you actually help in driving the value, the business value for the organization. And the key thing is data is the key element that basically helps there. We have huge amounts of data, and then you're looking at ways to mine the data and then provide valuable insights to the business so they can make good decisions and basically driving the company forward. So at a high level, that's basically where our journey started. And we were able to actually, and then business and technology working together started with a small concept of, providing that at the Realcomm conference. I think this was in 2017, just showing how you can actually use Alexa to actually get the data in and then provide that, and then having the executive support to actually build use cases, pilot cases of driving, taking data and create insights. Those are all together is what propel me to actually see how we can be able to bring forth some value back in.
You and your team made a great effort of taking or taking the challenge of taking Realcomm's little world, our
Yep.
website and the program, and putting it in, into ChatGPT, I believe, and it
Yeah.
allow us to. You learned a lot of lessons, correct? I mean,
Yeah,
not
we
as
did.
easy as you thought. Not, a lot more. The unstructured data is a little bit more unwieldy, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit is getting through the hype. But first of all, I just want to say thank you for that effort. We
Thank you.
learned a lot. I think you learned a lot, and I think it was a benefit to the industry. So.
Thank you.
Wayne, you started in our industry, went into general tech, some pretty high profile customers and companies. Give us a little background on your journey, or your career, and then why AI? Why are you focusing so hard on AI right now?
Certainly, and thank you, Jim, and pleasure to be here. So I have over 30 years of experience working in the business of technology, as I refer to it. And during those 30 years, I've worked with some of the biggest brands, biggest companies, and partnered with them. From financial services, the likes of your Goldman Sachs of the world, all the way through to commercial real estate with the Westfields or Unibail-Rodamco Westfield. So you think about it, I've worked with the tenants for some of these buildings. I've worked with the real estate companies. And I've also worked with the enterprise technology that sits within any organization that powers it through. So always at the intersection of business and technology, and always about driving business outcomes. So I've been there for the transition from on-premise to cloud, client server, big data, machine learning, and now today, artificial intelligence.
Right. We just keep giving it different names, but at the end of the day, its foundation is data.
Yep.
Absolutely. The foundation is data, and it's always about how do we use the data and how do we use the tools that process that data to get to those outcomes, be it environmental, social, commercial, and so on and so forth.
Right. Well, and when you look at it from a macro perspective, right, you just sit in an airplane and look down on the built environment, any major city, the inefficiencies, the energy inefficiencies, the human inefficiencies. If AI really got its act together in our industry, I mean, it could radically shift not just how we operate and transact the assets, but how we use them, right? I mean, where once 25 people sat crunching spreadsheets could be replaced by a server in some rack in some co-location facility somewhere around the world, right? So this is a deep conversation. We were talking earlier, Sunder. I said, what inning? I mean, as far as this AI, next iteration of big data, I think we're still in the bus in the parking lot.
I fully agree on that. I fully agree on that, Jim. I think as far as within our industry at least, we haven't even started to be, like.
Well, and I want to ask you a quick question, 30 seconds. I just want to get your perspective, each of you. So if we introduced it in 2016 and AI has been around in its development stages for at least 15 years, why did it take the whole world from 2016 to 2022, follow 2022, ChatGPT, to become aware? That's 6 years. Why do we all of a sudden wake up?
So if I can jump in here, some fundamental things have changed. Artificial intelligence, machine learning has been around for decades. However, those past decades, we spent the time adapting to the computers and how to interact with them. It's made it very niche, which meant you had specialist skills to do that. With ChatGPT or generative AI, it is fundamentally different. This is the first time machines are going to start adapting to us, and we can begin to interact with them in natural ways. So it becomes what I refer to as interactive. We're at the interactive phase now. Look at the announcements just made in the last 2 to 3 days by OpenAI and ChatGPT. It can hear, it can listen, it can speak.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's but why last fall? Did something happen? Was there an announcement? Was it on social media? I mean, 6 years. I mean, that technology has been around for a while, right? But and I guess what I'm trying to figure out is from an adoption standpoint, what trigger points have to occur? Because if we can learn how it became world news overnight in last year, and we learn something about the adoption cycle, we can figure out when and how we think it's going to impact the real estate industry based on some common attributes, right? I don't have the answer. I don't know why it exploded last year.
Yeah, so for Jim, with regards to that, right? So OpenAI, which is the owner of ChatGPT, basically where they had it open, but it was not like for public use. It was still basically in small pockets. Some research academia were actually working through. But then when they actually opened it up, I think this was in 2021, like late 2021, early 2022. That's when people started looking at this particular tool set, but the actual thing came through in mid 2022 when people started using it. But that's that thing is now prevalent.
I saw a demo last week of, in my prediction, will probably be public news. This is, call it September, October. Probably by spring of next year, the person who gave the demo predicted it will have the same phenomenon as ChatGPT, and it was AI at a level I'd never seen before. And this guy, talk about credentials, was on the chip design team for Google that was assisting the AI guys in developing the platform. So they needed hardware resources. He was the guy who designed that chip to make AI perform at the levels it needs to. So he's got a lot of credibility. I saw the demo with my own eyes. We're going to be talking about it a lot in the next couple of weeks. But this stuff is not slowing down. It's just not. So let's get to, before we go on a quick commercial break, let's talk about a few of the big use cases. The group that's come together after the conference, it gets together once a month. We've had a couple charters in the last 60 days. Number one, let's try to get all the use cases identified, or a good list of the use cases. And we've got a fairly robust list that we'll be showing this in November. And we've also been diving into the vendor community, our vendor community, to try to see where they're at. And we've been having some really good results. We got 10 major vendors. We got their survey results back, and we're going to be sharing them with the group shortly. But we did spend, I think, about 6 weeks on the use cases. Sunder, from the top of your head, what are the top 3 use cases in the built environment that you're going to focus on in the next 6 to 12 months?
So the big ones are smart building management, right? So that's something that basically where you can see immediate returns that you can actually be able to get, wherein AI can be used to automate and optimize building operations in a HVAC, as far as energy management goes, in a HVAC controls and also security too. The benefits are it basically reduces costs and improves efficiency and other things. Look at from an asset management perspective. It can also be used to track and monitor the condition of the buildings, that and the equipment that's basically there. And
but let me push back on you a little bit. 2 years ago, in the middle of a pandemic, New York City, some of the most instrumented buildings in the country, buildings empty, energy consumption flat, the same, didn't go down, despite the fact the buildings were empty from the pandemic. The energy. So are these buildings ready for AI? I mean, is our building stock ready for smart building ideas like that, where the data is then processed by AI?
And it will be, right? So the reason I say that is like by adding in the IoTs and other things, you can now actually see how the patterns look like. You can actually see when there is a lot more usage at the time you actually increase, and when there is no usage, you can reduce it. So then the energy consumption comes down. I was at last year we were at the Chicago, Realcomm Chicago CIO Forum at a building in Chicago.
John Buck, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was pretty awesome because, as soon as we walked in, they basically were able to turn the temperatures up. It knew that someone was in the building and the temperatures went up. And as soon as we left, I was looking at it and it came down. So it was basically going based on the occupancy of that room, the space management that was there, and everything else. So that's basically where you would see the maximum value of the buck.
But in order to take advantage of AI, let's be clear,
Yeah.
you have to have the highways, you have to have the off ramps, you have to have the lines in the middle of the road. I mean, you need infrastructure
Yeah.
to be able to connect these devices to a common network, and have protocols and data normalization to funnel this data to a central place where the AI can do its job, correct?
Definitely. And I think you cannot move without that, right? So, the assumption is that you have that, and then you can actually help move some of these things forward.
Well, and we are seeing some instances, especially in the cloud-based applications, where an HVAC vendor will apply AI in the back into the HVAC functionality, the lighting vendor do the same. The problem is when you have all these islands of data doing their own thing, you're losing some of the collective comprehensive benefits of having an interconnected system, right?
Mhm.
In other words, if the building's empty, lights off, HVAC down, those two systems acting independently, I think, may not be as effective as we want.
No.
Wayne, how about you? Top one or two use cases in the built environment?
Yeah, so I was seeing a lot of sort of tenant queries. So think about customer service. Think about tenants that have questions with regards to their lease or with regards to a particular problem they might have. Uses of Gen AI in that respect, in terms of the chatbots and things like that, reduce that sort of administrative load and give far quicker responses. So I'm seeing it from that point of view. The other thing is around attracting tenants and sort of understanding the market and research. So I see AI within that space being able to look at when tenants might look to switch, look at when tenants might fall into debt or fall back on their payments, and being able to predict that. And so that will certainly help with the built environment with respect to making sure that the occupancy is optimal, can be proactive in terms of providing any resources that are needed in order for the whole ecosystem to continue.
Now, you did a pretty stunning demo this year at Realcomm and IBCon with your virtual assistant, right? Where it was not a chat box, it was not an email, it was not a form on a website. It was an animated, pretty interesting looking female figure where you were just having a conversation with, right? And if that's early days, I can only imagine what it's going to look like 12 months from now. How long before we see an automated attendant, virtual automated attendant on the homepage of a real estate company, able to answer any question in voice, not text, that somebody visiting that website may be? How long till we see one of our firms take it to that level?
It's very soon, to be honest with you, Jim. I think we have the technology and the capability to do it today. I would say we'll start to see it in some of those emerging players in the sort of 6 to 12 months time frame.
And I just thought of this. Let's write it down collectively. If you can maybe think about doing what you did in June, and maybe find 2 or 3 other examples of those type of animated AI assistants, just to show the audience how fast that particular world is going. Because I think once you get that human interface figured out where people feel comfortable talking and interacting, then it goes to a whole nother level. One of my use cases that I'll just throw in there was, the ability for somebody who's got a portfolio, say in Southern California, to apply visual AI using like a Google satellite map, and within literally a click of a button, determine the condition of their roofs and provide a maintenance and a repair schedule based upon what AI found in those images of those roofs of that portfolio. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're just I think we probably have about 60 case studies identified so far the group has put together. All right, let's take a brief break to hear from one of our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to get into a little bit of the details of what's going to happen at BuildingsAI this November.
Confidence is at the heart of everything we do at Carrier. Our systems fill buildings and homes with healthy, clean air. We detect and put out fires and help people stay safe and secure inside. Our innovations keep foods and life-saving medicines cold and fresh until they reach those who need them. At Carrier, we create solutions to help you build a brighter future. Inspiring confidence. Carrier.
All right. So let's bring the guys back and get this conversation going. All right, guys. So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on the event. So what led us to the event is, our programs team keep their ears to the ground, and there he is, head of our programs team, Howard. Thanks for joining this segment, Howard. And so, we keep our ear to the ground. First year was 2016. It was human. We had somebody kind of been a little dormant for a few years. And then this year, Howard felt, a palpable response to the industry looking for answers on AI. 5, 6 different sessions, Howard, at the conference, I think, on AI, where you guys did deeper dives. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he puts 5 or 6 sessions together, and then literally a week after the conference sends out an email to 100 people saying, was that enough? Everybody said no. And that's when the two of you and the 75 other people, Howard and I and 75 other people and Sarah, got on a call and started talking about AI, right? We're calling it the Realcomm IBCon AI Advisory Group. And that leads us to, why did we decide to do BuildingsAI, right? And we talked to you guys, we talked to the group, and we said, if everybody tries to figure this out incrementally, an hour here, an hour there, a 15-minute session there, a little webinar there, it's going to take too long. So we made it our goal to come up with a process to fast track everybody's knowledge on AI. Kind of in my head, by January 1st, this group is going to be a lot better educated on AI. So as they go into planning for 2024, they can understand what extent they have to devote financial and human resources to this topic, or if they're going to outsource, right? So we just said we can't do it in a couple hours. So we decided BuildingsAI, right? And we piggybacked it on Core Tech 23, which is our corporate real estate and facilities event. And then we said, okay, we're going to do it up in Silicon Valley where there's a lot of tech. But I want to hear from Howard first, and then you two guys. Why did we need to do BuildingsAI? In your head, Howard, what was the main reason we said we got to get together for a day and have some really serious conversations about this, roll up our sleeves and ask more questions than we have answers?
Well, I think our first step was with that AI advisory group. And what we I think successfully did is we created a group. And again, these are folks that are in the real estate industry. So these are industry folks that have opted into this group to talk with their peers. And this kind of created a hive mentality around sharing information, about AI, what they're doing, what the questions are, what the challenges are. So we could leverage the magic of having everybody together in a group sharing with each other and driving the topic forward. From that, we got a lot of information from a number of surveys that we did internally. And the reason for BuildingsAI was, number one, it's timely. And we had an opportunity getting together in Silicon Valley, kind of, ground zero for AI. But also, there's only so much you can cover on a Teams call.
Exactly.
1 hour, 1.5 hour Teams call. So we thought we'd put some structure to it and create a one-day program.
And I'll even though we're going to put structure for it, I'm going to go out there and say it's still Wild West. I mean, we're going to be adding and deleting speakers right up into the last minute as we discover and uncover the difference between hype and reality. And you're experiencing the difference between what is real and what is not.
I'll be honest with you. I put together a Realcomm IBCon program, 100 sessions, hundreds of speakers. It's snap to grid. I know exactly where we're going. With the AI topic, I have more than a vague idea, but it shifts almost every.
Right. Well, in that the reason is because there is so much hype out there and so much ambiguity out there that it's hard, right? And so what we are guaranteeing, though, at least from my perspective, is we're going to have the right people in the room asking a lot of questions. Nobody's going to be up on that stage telling you this is the way to, to the promised land. This is going to be an exploratory roll up your sleeves event where I want to consider more of a working, group than sitting and listening people talk at you all day.
So my objective is to level set on what the important things are that we need to know about if we're putting together an AI strategy. And secondarily, I want to share some of the best, most instructive use cases. And that is with presentations and demos of how AI is being applied in very significant areas. So we're going to be, we're going to be talking about everything from the regulatory environment to how to put together a governance framework for your, for AI for your enterprise, to, how do you deal with the talent shortage of AI?
Yeah, and also, I mean, for smaller real estate companies who don't have large teams and can't have their own AI specialists, how to leverage the general vendors, the Microsofts, the Googles, the Amazons, the Metas. I mean, and that's why we wanted to be in Silicon Valley, close to those companies, to get those relationships forged, because a lot of real estate companies just don't have the financial or human resources to deal with this.
And we'll have the benefit of input from, from the Metas, from the IBMs, from the Microsofts, as well as from our commercial real estate solution providers,
Exactly.
our Yardis and MRIs and VTSs also. Where they see the, where they're going, where they see the industry going, so they can get bilaterally. They'll also get feedback from the industry on what the industry is asking for. But the crux of what we're doing is going to be, I think the objective is to really expose some critical use cases so folks can see what the opportunities are and what AI in many forms, and we're talking AI and machine learning, but also Gen AI. We're talking about computer vision, text to speech, all of the different flavors, and actually see some of the best examples in the world.
So Sunder, you're leaning in on this topic. Why did you want to get involved?
So first of all, I think getting everyone together, you do get some valuable insights on the AI's transformative potential. That you could then be able to apply at your companies, right? So that's basically one thing. The second thing is also actionable strategies that you can take back. So those are the two things that I would basically see coming in. As we know, working with generalists, you can actually see what they're doing in their industry and then see how that can be applied in your industry.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing them together, and this is how you move your industry forward.
Well, and I'll get to it in a second, but being at Meta's headquarters, I mean, we're going to be the new VR headset that was just announced 2 days ago, right? Think about that headset with AI applied to the built environment, as built, maintenance operations. I mean, the corporate America, specifically in Silicon Valley, and that's the core tech part of the conversation, is probably going to take a big lead in trying to figure some of this out, because these technology companies have tech in their DNA, and it's making its way into their real estate and facilities groups. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why we've been hanging in Silicon Valley in the fall for the last 5 to 10 years. It's because those are the companies who are, between Microsoft and Seattle and all the tech in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of brain trust that has been very fortunate, or we've been very fortunate to have work with us. Mm-hmm. Wayne, how about you? What's the number one objective of BuildingsAI?
For me, thank you, Jim. For me, it's about sharing our experiences. It's like the gold rush. Everybody's entering into the AI and at different stages of participation. And everybody is learning what works well, what doesn't work well, and everything else in between. In order to accelerate this industry, what I see as one of the primary objectives is to share that knowledge and to give best tips, best advice. And everybody has their proprietary information. And this is not about that. This is about finding we all have to go through the same steps. What are they?
Yep, exactly. And our attitude was, instead of the whole industry doing it one at a time, Let's get together, create the use case list. Let's get together. Let's ask the top 25 most influential vendors in our industry where they're at. These summary sheets that we're preparing are stunning. I mean, you want to know what, 8 to 10 of the top companies are doing. You don't have to have those hour conversations, those 2-hour demos. At least you have a starting point. And again, the goal was that by January 1 of 2024, this group of people starts as the foundation. And then we shed that knowledge into the larger industry, larger, broader industry. And we help get our industry up to speed sooner rather than later. That's that. And if you guys remember, we said our approach has to be different. We got to move at lightning speed. We got to fail fast. We got to talk to everybody. We got to sift through a lot. And even if we only get it 50% right, I think it's going to be a great collection of conversations and people to do it. All right. Before we wrap, I would just want to talk about why are we doing CoreTech 23 and BuildingsAI in Menlo Park at Meta's headquarters. So Ian, why don't you bring up that diagram and I'll kind of just chat to it. But we were very, very fortunate to meet some very strategic people from Meta at Realcomm and IBCon this summer. Bobby Lusant, who's head of their smart facilities program, who was brought to the conference and introduced by Google, came to the conference, said he loved it, met a lot of great people. And Howard and Bobby kind of talked and Bobby says, I want to get involved. And Howard said, well, how much? And he says, a lot. And so Bobby basically said, let's have the conference or Howard asked him, he said, let's have the conference at Meta. And we jumped on it. Okay. So the first and foremost, that photo you just saw is one of the most state-of-the-art event centers in corporate America, possibly in the United States, period. And when we walked in here, we go, this is the kind of room you need to communicate in the 21st century. So any corporation who's trying to figure out what an event collaboration center should look like, you just need to be in the room. So, I mean, getting in this room is worth the price of admission, if you will. And you're going to see screens that move and walls that move and AV and streaming and all sorts of technologies that some people have struggled to do. In this facility, you click a button and you got a team of people who know what they're doing, and it's phenomenal. So that being in that facility and being in the heart of AI, as Howard described, is key. And this is just going to give you, a little bit of the highlights. This is up on our website, the conference highlights for BuildingsAI, interactive discussions, roadmaps, governance. And then the sessions include, everything from, what is general tech? What are the general tech AI leaders thinking about? How does that translate down into the built environment? What's happening at the high level inside of our industry? What are some of the best use cases, the challenges, the opportunities? And so we're really, really excited to get this out of the chute. It's going to be the inaugural event. We don't expect it to be perfect, but like I said, even if we only get it half right, we will have started a great dialogue, which will take us into 2024. So guys, last thoughts on AI, BuildingsAI. Sunder, 30 seconds. Leave the audience with final thoughts.
So I would say to anyone who's listening in that this is the first event that I've known of, which is basically set up in the heart of Silicon Valley, right, with brightest minds. And basically it's going to help them understand, what is happening in their AI journey and transformation, and what they can use in their strategy as they go back into their companies.
Wayne?
Yes, and so for me, the journey's just started, both for us as an industry, but also for the AI journey. There's so much more to come. This experience we're going to have is going to be amazing. And one of the things to take note of is the building we're in and the type of capabilities that it has. Because believe it or not, there will be some of our tenants that will require that type of capability.
I would say all of our tenants. Yeah, all of our tenants. What you'll see at the museum is a standard of communications. And it's just not fancy screens and cameras. It's the ability to communicate effectively, quickly to a large audience in the room, outside the room. You want to bring a speaker in, click a button. You want to stream a speaker out, click a button. And so it's really just a great example at a physical level of seeing what a facility might look like in the future, as well as the rest of the campus for that matter. Howard, I know you've been working hard. Like you said, this is harder in some cases than 100 sessions. Final thoughts.
I think we're going to have some phenomenal people with some phenomenal thought leadership and insights. But I think, as Wayne had mentioned, the magic is going to be actually being together with your peers and sharing your journey and gleaning learnings, from other folks that have been along the path a little bit longer than you. So I think the opportunity to create relationships and also benefit from some extraordinary thought leadership is going to be very worthwhile.
Yeah. Their egos are not allowed. There will be more questions than answers. There is no question too dumb. Our goal is to get a group of bright individuals together in a room, ask as many questions as we can, get the answers so we can share with the industry, so everybody can not feel overwhelmed, and help them navigate through hype and reality. So guys, thank you so much for your leadership role in this. I know it's a heavy lift. We're learning a lot as we go, but by November, middle of November, November 15 and 16, we're going to have a good crew of people ready to have some great conversations and demonstrations. Seeing is believing. All right. Thank you to Sunder and Wayne. We'll let you guys go. And I usually hand it off to Howard for the news. Howard's already here, so I'm going to get out of the way. And Howard's going to tell you what's happened this week in real estate prop tech news. Thanks, Howard.
Thanks, Jim. Hey, and thank you, Sunder and Wayne. Number one, for working so diligently with the AI Advisory Group and Realcomm, but also for agreeing to be our BuildingsAI co-chairs this year. Thank you. Now for a couple of news stories. I'll try to move through this fairly quickly. So these are from our weekly news briefing that goes out every Thursday morning. And if you don't see it in your inbox, just go to Realcomm, click on news. So our lead story, believe it or not, was generated by ChatGPT. Really? Well, at least we're honest about it. Wish everybody was. So it's entitled The MSG Sphere Las Vegas, The Immersive Experience Transformed. And if you're not familiar, the MSG Sphere, 400,000 square foot entertainment venue that's a joint venture between Madison Square Garden Entertainment Company and the Las Vegas Sands. And it's built as the largest spherical structure in the world. It's on Sands Avenue, just off the Strip. It's scheduled to open actually tonight with U2 and their Achtung Baby Live. It's going to be there for the next week. It's 366 feet high, 516 feet wide. It has an 18,000 seat auditorium. And the interior has a wraparound 16K LED screen. The exterior has 580,000 square feet of LED display, large and bright enough to be seen from outer space. Needless to say, this is going to cause more than a few rubbernecking traffic slowdowns in Vegas for the foreseeable future. So this AI-generated article actually does go pretty deep into the design and technology of this architectural marvel. Actually, a great read. Thank you, ChatGPT. So next, since 2012, we've been profiling and showcasing some outstanding examples of pretty technologically advanced smart buildings, campuses, and portfolios at our annual conference in our Smart Building Best Practice Showcase, which is assembled every year by our own Tina Danielson. And this week, we're featuring Sterling Bay's 311 West Monroe, 390,000 square foot office building in Chicago's Loop. And this is a renovation project that transformed a 70s era office building into an ultra-modern workplace that leverages data and monitoring-based commissioning to achieve some pretty aggressive energy goals. The properties achieved the RESET, air certification, and well health safety rating, among others. Data transparency enhances tenant experience on energy use and indoor environmental quality metrics, including customized tenant energy and IAQ dashboards. It's another great project by Sterling Bay. Next, so Prologis just released a research paper on future-proofing the global supply chain, how AI, automation, and other technologies are impacting efficiency. So it noted logistics real estate investments have actually been outpacing revenue growth despite advancements in automation and data analytics. And they've labeled this the supply chain productivity paradox. So the logistics real estate required to support $1 billion in retail sales increased from 500,000 square feet 10 years ago to 800,000 square feet today, a 57% increase. And in this article, they cite 5 drivers fueling the supply chain paradox: e-commerce, omni-channel operations, product variety, transportation cost management, and regulatory compliance. And on the technology side, they look at the impact on the supply chain of AI and big data, basic IT, data analytics, legacy automation, autonomous mobile robots, and automated sortation and retrieval. some great insights on supply chain and logistics. Thank you, Prologix. And finally, our AI blockbuster story for the week. Actually, there are two, but this one I think is pretty good. Amazon and Anthropic have announced a strategic collaboration to advance generative AI. So Anthropic, with its 100,000 token context window, Anthropic's LLM Claude, it handles everything from sophisticated dialogue and creative content generation to complex reasoning and detailed instructions. And with today's announcement, AWS customers are going to be able to customize Anthropic models with their own proprietary data to create their own private models. Now, customers accessing Anthropic's current models that are available through Amazon Bedrock are able to build generative AI-powered applications to automate tasks like producing market forecasts and developing research reports and enabling new drug discovery for healthcare and personalizing education programs. And I mean, there's so much happening now, and it's coming so quickly. It's hard to keep track. Amazing how much has transpired in just the last 12 months. So I know we're short on time. That was just a few of this week's highlights. I'm wishing you all a great weekend. And back to you, Jim.
So the one thing about the Sphere, I did note in the article was that it's $1 billion over budget. I think it was $1 billion, and now it's $2 billion. And apparently the individual, at that company who's driving that, literally is putting his entire career's work and betting on the future of these type of facilities. And it was a traditional New York real estate developer, and just has gone all in on the future. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to be watching. But what I've seen so far, and we tried to get into it this summer and couldn't because it was so much chaos going on with finishing up construction. But you're in Vegas. We expect you to be keeping an eye on it and keeping us apprised of what.
If you are in Vegas, you can get a tour of it. A day tour for like $50. But if you want to go to a U2 concert, it's $800 a seat.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
At that rate, they'll probably make up that $2 billion.
Yeah. It's taken it to yet another level, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Great job, Howard, and have a great weekend.
Okay.
All right. So before I go on to next week's show, let's hear from our final sponsor, and I'll be right back.
At FreeSpace, our purpose is to organize the world's workspaces to make them as hybrid-ready and efficient as possible. FreeSpace, the space to work effectively.
All right. So next week, we are going to be continuing the conversation on generative AI. And we don't have them confirmed right yet, but we're working on the details. But if we get these two folks on, we are going to be able to hear straight from the center of Washington, D.C., from an organization that's intimately involved with setting the AI policy coming out of our government in D.C., and is dealing with all these top companies that we've been mentioning. And we're hoping we can get them confirmed by Monday. But no matter what, we're going to have a phenomenal conversation next Friday on generative AI, leading into the fall, leading into Core Tech 23 and BuildingsAI, and making sure we're keeping our ear to the ground on topics that are important to you, those trying to figure out how technology and specifically AI is going to continue to impact the built environment. So with that, I say thank you. You have a great day, great weekend, and we'll see you next week on Realcomm Live. Be well.